Taking a hard look in the mirror can be really hard because we don't always like what we see. This week has been a absolute whirlwind. I was in 3 different cities. I got back here, but the main thing that has been challenging me this week has been reading Ray Dalio's Principles. Now, I'll save you a lot if you read the email. It's a dense book, but the journal that goes with it is really good. It laid out some things that really made me think. It had me look at my past to see how I can get the future that I want, right? We have to learn from the things in our past. This week, I'll tell you, I spent a day with Eli Wild. We did a VIP day where I got to fly into Miami and sit down with him all day going through our entire presentations, how we speak. And there were some big learnings from that. I'm going to save that for a different video. This one is all about challenge and growth, though, and the things that challenged me this week. So the big question that was posed at the start of the journal is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? We've all heard those questions. We can go through and we love to talk about those. A lot of people don't like to talk about their weaknesses as much as their strengths. That's okay. But the last question, the big question, was looking back at the last 5 years, what are 3 to 5 things that have occurred over and over and over again as stumbling blocks? And then the follow-up to that question is, why are they there? Can you put them out in the open? Can you get help with them? A lot of people don't want to admit these things, right? So I just want to go through them. When I looked at this list, I filled up about 3 journal pages on it. And I'm just going to go through. The first one is focus and sticking on one thing versus novelty. We love shiny objects, right? That's what we do as entrepreneurs. How did this come up over and over again? Well, before COVID, I was doing live events and I had 3 streams that got me leads coming in. One was masterminds, one was podcasts, and the third one was asking for referrals. All of those worked really well. As they were going, though, I kept going back to other things or seeing shiny objects, right? I'd go to a mastermind, I'd learn stuff. That's on me. Focus, right? Focus, 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 focus. So how do we overcome that, right? Well, one for me was trying to put in systems and accountability. 2 was outsourcing, which I am notoriously bad at, but I've worked really hard over the last 5 years to get better at. That first one, I feel like I did okay with, but I still see it. But number 2 is search for approval and judgment of others. I feel like this is a big one for entrepreneurs, right? They said that 3 things that all successful entrepreneurs have in common. One of the biggest ones is the need for approval, the need like an insecurity inside. And if I'm honest, I have that, right? I have this like huge insecurity around, am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Am I out there doing things? And if I didn't have that, I would not push myself as hard. So I have 2 conflicting beliefs in my head around that, right? I have the belief of I'm good enough how I am. Well, if I say that, then I don't push myself hard enough. So maybe I need to say that. You look at Michael Jordan, one of the biggest takeaways I had from the series The Dance was that he constantly created stories in his head that he wasn't good enough and that other people were trash talking him, even when it wasn't true. Really interesting to think about. I don't want to live a life like that, though, right? I don't want to live a life where I'm constantly saying that I'm not good enough. So how do you overcome search for approval and fear of judgment? I don't know if I have a good answer to that one. I will say that the thing that I've switched there is, who do I want approval from? And I think this has been the biggest change that I've made there. I don't know that it's perfect, but I've picked people in my life, whether I know them personally or don't. I've picked role models. And I'm like, I would like their approval. I would like their approval. Called a counsel in my head. Robert Fulghum, an author, used to talk about that. He's the guy that wrote All I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. He used to talk about the counsel that he had in his head. The guy that wrote The Miracle Morning, my pal Hal Enrod, wrote about, he had like 5 people that he looked up to. And I've tried to switch that to, would this person approve of this? Would this person approve of it? Most important to me, though, is God. Would God approve of this? If God would approve of it, then I look at the next level down. So the next level down, I think Nate, my business partner, awesome Christian, also a guy that has upstanding moral values. Would he approve of it? Would Tony Robbins approve of it? I like Tony a lot, so I go through those. I also have discussions with people. I have several entrepreneurs that I have discussions with around things. So I try to fix the approval thing and the fear of judgment. The last one is something that I think I struggled with harder before. I don't struggle with it as much, but it's, am I worthy of the outcome? Am I worthy of this thing? And, I started off as an art teacher and I wanted to be an art teacher in college. Am I worthy of building a real estate empire? That was the first thing that started back in 2000 with me. And I struggled with that belief a lot. And I remember working on it back then. And I don't know if I ever really overcame it. Then I went back, waited tables, worked for Vail, then started my events business. And I remember the first time I was in front of a bunch of chiropractors and I was like, am I worthy of them listening to me? And I struggled with it. So I would switch verticals. I would hide from it. And I think one of the things that switched, I read an Amanda Frances book that helped me quite a bit with this. You can Google it if you want to see it. The book, I would get the Audible. Some of it's hard to listen to. It's just not all that applicable. But the one thing that I took away from it was, how do you just say, like, I am worthy of this? I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. So that's still a belief that I have. So I'm working on that every day. I have things that help me with that, right? I go through testimonials sometimes. Anytime I'm really not feeling worthy, I just go through testimonials. But the last one, still a big one, is follow through. So this kind of goes back to the first one, focusing on one thing. So the fewer things I focus on, I know I will be more successful. The thing is that I have 50 things that are always calling for my attention. The skill that I am getting better at, and I feel like would serve everyone really well. I've talked through this with 5 different entrepreneurs this week, all of them 7 figures and above, and all of them are prioritize and execute and do it in the morning. All of them that I've talked to tend to work best in the morning when they first get up, before they get distracted, and doing that thing, and then staying focused on just a few things early on. That is something that I work really hard on, and still something that I'm working on. So those are the big challenges, learnings from this week. I would love to hear your answer to the question. I've linked the personality test, by the way. This is the tool for the week. Awesome personality test that is free by Ray Dalio. It's built for entrepreneurs. So I think you'll find it really helpful. It is linked in the email. If you take it, just a warning, it does take about 30 minutes to get through. Build your profile first. Just name an email and log in, because it'll save where you're at. And then if you reply to the email and share your email that you registered with, I'll add you as a friend. We can compare. But I'd love to hear your answer to the question as well. So I'll read the question for you. When looking back over the last 5 years, what are 3 to 5 reoccurring stumbling blocks or challenges that have slowed you down from reaching your goal? Hit reply. Let me know what they are. We can have some fun discussion around it. One of the biggest things, though, the quote from this week, though, the quote is, being able to painfully reflect on your failures and learn from them and grow from them is what allows you to reach success, right? But switching from the pain of failure to, I love learning from my failures. Let's talk about it. How can I get better at this? If you look at it as a growth moment, reframe it in your head, your ego will actually allow you to have those discussions a lot more. I believe that. I think that is great advice, but it's still something that, working on a little bit. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Wishing you all an awesome week.